Christmas at my dad's house always looked like a postcard somebody photoshopped to hell. I'm talking warm lights strung roofline to roofline, inflatable reindeer staked into a front yard with more pride than a championship banner, and a front door wreath so pearl-studded it looked like Linda mugged a Hobby Lobby. It was cold enough outside to hurt your teeth when you breathed, and you could smell cinnamon from the sidewalk. Norman Rockwell would have cried. Or puked. Hard to tell. Inside, a wall of heat smacked you in the face. Roasting ham, butter, nutmeg, an army of pies cooling on the counter like sugary landmines. Every cousin had a glass of something, every aunt had a sweater with bells that jingled when they laughed, and every uncle told the same story he tells every goddamn year. The family dog, Jasper, kept weaving between legs, hunting for fallen appetizers and old grudges. The dining room table was stretched with all the extra leaves and still looked like it was gasping for air under the weight of serving dishes. If you didn't know us, you'd think we were nice people. That was the year I decided to blow it up. I waited until everyone was seated, plates clinked, the gravy boat made its delicate little parade, and Linda, queen of the evening, in a green sweater that matched her envy, held court at the head of the table like she paid the mortgage alone. My dad, Tom, sat to her right, cheeks flushed from carving the ham, eyes happy and tired in that way only a Midwestern dad can pull off. Luke, golden boy, miracle child, haloed in soft pendant light, kicked his feet under his chair and let two aunts argue over who got to fix his plate. I took the chair at the far end where I always get put so we can pass dishes easier, which is family code for so Rachel can shut up at the other end. I reached into my tote. The conversation kept humming along. Someone told a joke about airline travel. Someone else corrected the joke with a worse one. Linda topped off Tom's glass like a doting nurse who bills by the hour. I pulled out a plain cardboard box. No ribbon, no bow. Just 3 letters printed on the lip, and set it down in front of the centerpiece. It hit the wood with a solid little thud. Forks hovered midair. Chairs creaked. A jingle bell on Aunt Brenda's sweater let out one lonely shake. Linda's smile twitched like a bad eyelid. Her gaze dropped to the box, bounced back up to me, and then slid to Tom, the way you look at your husband when you hope he will say the thing you want to hear so you won't have to. "Geez, Ratch," Uncle Ron said, chuckling into his bourbon. "What'd you bring, IKEA?" "It's a gift. For the family." Linda laughed a note too high. How thoughtful. She did that thing where she tilts her head like a pharmacist about to deny your refill. "Is it dessert?" "Sort of. Depends on your appetite for truth." Tom frowned. "Honey?" "Open it." I could feel my heart trying to kick through my ribs. You know that feeling when a roller coaster chains you up the hill and you think, oh, I made a mistake? That. Except I built the coaster. I greased the tracks, I sold tickets on Instagram, and now I was about to push the whole family over the edge. Linda lifted the lid. Her face went white under the lipstick. She didn't touch the tube, didn't read the instructions. She just stared at the 3 letters like they'd been engraved on a headstone. "DNA?" Aunt Brenda whispered, like she was asking a priest for a spare absolution. "Neat. Like on those commercials where people find out they're like Scandinavian and then buy a sweater." "Shut up, Tyler," someone said. Linda closed the lid with shaking hands. "Rachel?" She tried to make my name sound like a prayer and landed on a threat. "Tonight," I said, "because we're done pretending." "Pretending about what?" Tom asked, a notch of worry appearing between his eyebrows. He had carved 1,000 hams on that same table and never once looked spooked. It made me slightly sick to do it to him, but I didn't put the sickness here. Linda did. I was just dragging it into the light and letting it scream. I let the silence stretch until it sang. My tongue tasted like copper and resolve. If nothing's wrong, it's a fun little science project. If something is wrong, we stop lying to each other. Jesus, Uncle Ron muttered, leaning back like he needed space for his belly and his opinions. Linda smoothed her napkin. Rachel, you're being dramatic. The smile was back, but it was the kind that shows gums and promises pain. You love them more. You just prefer yours quiet. If you're wondering why I came to Christmas with a DNA kit like a psychopath, keep listening, because this didn't start with a box on a table. It started years ago, with a casserole and a fake smile, then a baby boy, and then the long, slow campaign to escort me out of my own goddamn family like I was a stray cat that wandered in. I was 15 when my mom died. Cancer. The kind that makes you learn the names of drugs you shouldn't know and the weight of your own bones. It was me and Tom after that. We kept the house too cold because she always ran warm. We ate what we could muster. Sometimes dinner was cereal because grief made everything else taste like cardboard. Tom would drive me down Ward Parkway late at night so we could look at other people's Christmas lights and pretend we were just two normal humans holding our shit together. We weren't, but he tried. I tried. And there was a kind of peace in the trying. Then Linda appeared like a coupon with no expiration date. She worked at Tom's office, just helping with files, she said, with that soft voice people use when they're trying to get you to adopt something. The first time she came over, she brought a lasagna. The second time, cookies. The third time, she arrived with a scarf for me because your neck looked cold yesterday, sweetie. And I remember actually blushing because you can't fake that kind of kindness, can you? Spoiler, you can if you want something bad enough. For a while, she was perfect. She braided my hair for school dances, drove me to Target for mascara I wasn't supposed to wear, and stood in our kitchen on Sunday morning singing along to the radio while she scrambled eggs like it was the simplest miracle in the world. Tom laughed again. He started sleeping through the night. Sometimes I'd hear the two of them in the living room, him telling a story I'd already heard, and her laughing like it was brand new. And I'd feel this tiny lift in my chest, like maybe the world was going to allow us soft things again. Then she got pregnant. Surprise, she said, standing in the doorway holding a plastic stick like a magic wand. Tom's face broke open with joy. Mine didn't. Not because I didn't want him happy, but because something in Linda's eyes flashed then, quick as a knife, gone just as fast, like she'd been waiting at a finish line and finally saw the ribbon snap. When Luke was born, the house remapped itself around him. Our lives started orbiting his crib, which, fine. Babies do that. Babies are gravity with toes. I loved him, even then. He had my mom's dimple somehow, which made zero biological sense and all the emotional sense. And when he fell asleep on my chest, I'd press my nose to his hair and think, maybe this is what new smells like. But 2 months in, Linda changed her shape. The braid stopped. The Target run stopped. She started snapping my name like it was a fly she couldn't kill. A sweater was suddenly too tight for a young lady who wants to be taken seriously. My friends were loud. My grades were slipping. They weren't. And maybe it would be best for everyone if I considered staying with Aunt Brenda for a while to cut the commotion in the house. Every comment she made stood on a little pile of sugar, like a cupcake made of salt. When Tom was in the room, she praised me in ways that felt like a script. Rachel is such a help with Luke. Honestly, I don't know how I'd survive nap time. When he left to take out the trash, she leaned in and whispered, "You're turning out a little selfish, don't you think?" Then she smiled big and yelled, "Tom, do we need more trash bags?" Like the inside of her mouth wasn't poison. I told myself I was being paranoid, that grief makes you suspicious, and motherhood makes women tired, and sometimes tired people suck for a while. Then the pattern set. Linda didn't just pull love away. She replaced it with this precise, slow drip sabotage. Family group chats started to hum with comments about how Rachel seems moody lately, and it's hard on kids when a new baby comes, and she'll adjust. Someone, I will never not wonder who, told Aunt Brenda I'd rolled my eyes at Luke while he was crying, and suddenly I was the teenage monster in everyone's bedtime story. By the time I left for college, the house felt like a museum where my name used to be one of the exhibits. I came home for Thanksgiving freshman year and found a box of my books labeled Garage, with a little smiley face on the sticky note. Linda hugged me in the doorway with a hold that said both, "I love you" and "You're in the way." "Don't you think it's time you found a place of your own?" she asked sweetly when Luke was 3. "You're so independent. College girls need their space." I moved out with money I barely had because staying made me feel like sleep paralysis. Tom helped me carry a mattress up 2 flights of stairs and pretended he didn't hear Linda in the kitchen narrating loudly to whomever would listen about Rachel's big girl adventure like I was a toddler taking a dump on a potty. Fast forward years. I built a life, work, rent, tired plants on the windowsill, a popular ramen place that knew my order. I came home for birthdays, for holidays, for Luke's firsts. Every time I crossed the threshold, Linda's eyes did a quick inventory, like TSA. Her commentary sharpened with age. "You look tired," which is women on women code for "you look like shit." Still at that little firm, with the kind of smile you give a child who brings you a drawing that looks like a catastrophe. When I'd kiss Luke's head, she'd sigh theatrically and murmur just loud enough, "He shouldn't be climbing into laps. He's getting too big for that," as if I was leeching calcium from her son. Luke grew. He's a good kid. Funny, golden, always with grass stains and an apology ready for rules he never meant to break. He started to laugh like Tom, ask questions like Tom, look at people like Tom. And every time he did, I watched Linda's mouth set in a line like somebody ironed it. She wanted all of Tom's gravity for her side of the table. She was building a little kingdom where I was the neighboring country with lousy exports. The smear campaign worked on the extended family like fertilizer. By the time Luke hit elementary school, the aunts and uncles had chosen their queen. Linda dripped stories into their ears in the gentle cadence of concern. "I worry about Rachel," she'd say, hand over heart. "She seems unsettled." Translation, "I'm going to make you suspicious of her and call it love. If I dared push back, I was ungrateful. If I kept my mouth shut, I was cold. Heads I lost, tails she won." And then one night last spring, she slipped. It was after a barbecue. The house smelled like lighter fluid and laughter stuck to the curtains. I couldn't sleep, so I went downstairs for water. The kitchen was dark except for the glow of the stove clock and Linda's phone lighting up her face. She had her back to me, voice pitched low and sharp. She hissed, "I told you, he can't know. Not Tom, not anyone. Do you hear me? Not ever." A pause. The kind of silence that's all teeth. She said, "I handled it. She's on the outside. That was the whole point." My skin went cold in a way that had nothing to do with the refrigerator door. She turned when she felt me there and pasted on her soft voice like lip gloss, "Oh, you scared me." "Who were you talking to?" "Charity committee. We're organizing a coat drive." "At midnight?" "Need never sleeps." I went back upstairs with my water and lay awake staring at the ceiling fan, counting the rotations like they were clues. There is a flavor of dread you only learn when you've been gaslit with a smile for long enough. The one that tastes like you're the crazy one until a sentence you weren't supposed to hear cracks the shell. I wasn't crazy. Linda was juggling something she couldn't afford to drop. A few days later, I caught another sliver. She was on speakerphone by accident. Rookie mistake for a pro liar while packing Luke's soccer bag. A man's voice said, "I'm not doing this forever." And Linda snapped back, "You don't get to decide that." I walked into the kitchen like I hadn't just been handed the corner of a map. "Need help?" I asked. She flinched, fumbled the phone off speaker, and smiled with all her teeth. She said, "Just logistics for the snack list. We're switching from oranges to grapes." Can you imagine the chaos? "Total anarchy," I said. I smiled back because it's easier to let a liar get comfy than to spook them into changing locks. Every muscle in my face hurt. The idea took root. Ugly, stubborn, inevitable. If Linda had a secret, it lived in blood. I didn't say anything to Tom. He would have nodded, told me I was stressed, patted my shoulder, and gone back to his happy little story, because that's what people do when the truth threatens to bankrupt their heart. So I kept my mouth shut and made a plan. Look, I know what I did next is insane. I do. I watch the same TV shows you do. But there's a kind of crazy you earn.
One Saturday morning, I waited until Tom and Luke brushed their teeth for the farmer's market. When they left, I went into the bathroom, plucked each of their toothbrushes like flowers, sealed the bristles in little Ziploc bags, and tucked them into an envelope with my own saliva on a swab I'd ordered online. I wrote gift receipts on the outside in case Linda went snooping in my purse because even paranoids can be practical. I mailed the kit in a FedEx box that felt like contraband. The tracking number became my new god. I refreshed it at stoplights, in bathroom stalls, while pretending to listen at meetings. When the email landed, 2 weeks later, results are ready, I sat down on my kitchen floor because my knees decided they were done being team players. I almost didn't click. There's a tiny moment before you open the door on your life's next chapter where your brain tries to barter for a different book. Maybe the server will be down. Maybe the company will have lost my sample. Maybe I'll spontaneously combust and leave a scorch mark shaped like closure. I clicked. The page loaded. Numbers, percentages, the words that recalculate a family, not a match. I stared until the letters blurred. I closed the tab, opened it again, logged out, logged in, clicked through. Are you having trouble reading your results? Like a moron, looking for a version where the answer was different. There wasn't one. Tom was not Luke's biological father. I didn't cry. Not then. It was like trying to cry underwater. The emotion had to squeeze through too much pressure to reach my face. I texted no one. I didn't call a friend. I made toast I didn't eat and stood at the sink chewing air while the toaster smoked like a warning flare. When the shock stopped screaming, I felt something else. Relief. It slid through my ribs like a warm hand. I wasn't crazy. Linda had built her little throne on top of a lie, and she'd kept it there by shoving me off the rug and telling everyone I tripped. The math lined up. The late-night calls, the coat drives, the frantic speakerphone slip, the way her voice went knife-sharp anytime anyone compared Luke to Tom. She wasn't protecting the family. She was protecting herself. If you're wondering why I didn't just print the results and drop them in Tom's lap that second, congratulations on never having to detonate a bomb over a man you love who won't survive the blast if you aim wrong. Tom is a good dad. He's not perfect, he's stubborn, sentimental, and he will put "work hard, be kind" on his tombstone like a bumper sticker. He also loves Luke. Real, tier 1 love. If I ripped the truth open on a random Tuesday, I'd be picking his heart up in handfuls.
So I waited for the one day the whole troupe would be on the same stage, Christmas. Obsessed as Linda is with optics, she never misses her favorite performance. Extended family and folding chairs? Check. Soft lighting and wine? Check. Luke in a sweater vest? Check. Tom carving ham while everyone admires how stable he is? Check. You couldn't build a better theater if you hired a set designer. I tucked the DNA kit and the printed results into my tote with a sweater, a candle, and a smile like a costume. I practiced sentence fragments in the car so I wouldn't ramble and give Linda room to drag me into the spin cycle. I pictured her face when the scene changed on her. I felt guilty about it, and then that guilt curdled into something useful. I'm not proud of how much I wanted her to finally feel a fraction of what she fed me for years. I'm not ashamed either. The day unfurled with sickening normalcy. Cookies, hugs that were too tight. Brenda's husband complaining about airport security like they personally frisked his soul. Luke ran a victory lap around the living room with new socks pulled up to his knees because kids are weird and wonderful, and I love him with a ferocity. I will never forgive Linda for complicating that. Tom kissed my forehead in the kitchen while he tasted gravy, and I almost told him right then, just to hear my name and his voice before I changed it forever. I didn't. Cowardice or strategy? Flip a coin. We sat down. Toasts. Blessings. The jingle bells on Brenda's sweater made that cheap, bright sound that still makes my molars grind. Linda poured wine with a flourish, like a magician revealing an empty hat. The centerpiece was one of those pine cone and fake cranberry numbers that shed glitter on your sleeves so you carry Christmas home like a rash. Before dessert, Linda said, smiling down the table like a CEO, I just want to say how grateful I am for family, especially this year. Tom, you've been my rock. Luke, you are my sunshine, and Rachel, she lifted her glass toward me, I'm proud of you for finding your path.
like I'd been wandering in the woods while she built a mansion on my childhood. "Aw," Aunt Brenda sighed. "Isn't that nice?" I reached into my tote. My fingers brushed the paper edges. The room was warm and loud and expectant, and I felt cold, quiet, and sharp. The best version of me would have excused us into the den and done this with tissues and mercy. The real version of me slid the box onto the table because mercy is what you earn when you don't spend a decade turning me into a villain in my own house. The thud cut through the clatter. That's the thing about truth. It's heavy, even when the package is small. Linda stared. Tom's eyes dropped, rose, searched my face like a man trying to find shore in fog. "What's this?" he asked. "A gift," I said. My voice was steady. It surprised me. I focused on one stupid detail to keep from shaking. Jasper the dog had found a chunk of ham near Tyler's chair and was trying to look casual while inhaling it. The mundanity felt obscene and perfect. Life doesn't stop for revelations. It keeps chewing. "DNA?" Brenda breathed again because apparently she was our Greek chorus. "Like ancestry?" "Like answers," I said. Linda's smile snapped back on like a mask. "Rachel, honey, this is silly." She touched the lid with 2 fingers like it might stain her. "Good thing it's not a trinket," I said. "It's a test." Tom swallowed. "Why would we need a test?" The table fell into that painful human silence families get right before the thing they've pretended not to feel turns into a sentence. You could hear Jasper licking his chops. You could hear the radiator tick. You could hear my pulse in my ears. I met Tom's eyes and felt everything tilt. He is a good man. He did not deserve this. He also didn't deserve to be lied to anymore. "Because," I said, my mouth dry as dust, "we're done pretending." "Pretending about what?" Linda's voice had that wobble she uses when she wants you to feel like you're choking her with your boundaries. "Rachel, you're making a scene." "You made the scene," I said. "I just turned on the lights." If you've ever stood at the edge of a cliff and told yourself you're brave right until your toes curl over the rock, you understand what I felt. If you haven't, imagine putting your entire childhood on the table and asking it to sit upright and speak clearly. "Open it," I said. Linda didn't move. The room narrowed around the box. Brenda's sweater bell chimed once like a warning. Luke was watching me now, fork paused, eyes wide. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to rewind 10 years and break every phone Linda ever owned. I wanted to pour truth down her throat and clamp her mouth shut until she swallowed. Tom reached out, slow, careful, like the kit might bite. He drew the lid back, and when he saw the tube, the instructions in the little plastic baggies, his shoulders rose and fell like the beginning of a sob or a laugh. He didn't look at me. He looked at Linda.
She finally spoke, soft as a needle. "Not tonight." "Tonight," I said, "because if nothing's wrong, we celebrate. And if something's wrong, we stop forcing each other to compliment the centerpiece." Uncle Ron tried to joke, bless him. "Hell of a white elephant, kiddo." "Shut up, Ron," snapped Brenda, and I almost smiled because the universe loves a subplot. I pulled one more thing from my tote and laid it beside the box. An envelope. Thick. Cream. My hands didn't shake. Inside were the printed results that had sat under my sink like a curse for weeks. A corner of paper peeped out like a tongue. "Rachel," Tom said. My name was raw in his mouth. "What is this?" I took a breath so deep it touched my spine. "It's the thing that decides whether we're still playing house or finally telling the truth." The air felt thin. Linda's face had gone from peach to paper. There's a point where even the best liar can't find a line that works. They just stall and hope the storm passes. But the storm was me, and I'd waited long enough to gather thunderheads. I slid the envelope closer to Tom. He didn't touch it yet. He looked at me like he wanted me to be wrong and wanted me to be right and hated the math of both. "I brought this because I love you." Linda flinched like love was a dirty word. Maybe to her it is. Maybe the only words she trusts are the ones she can weaponize. Aunt Brenda whispered, "Oh my God," into her napkin. Tyler, finally shut up, stared like the TikTok algorithm couldn't hope to deliver this. "Open it," I said, again, softer this time, and let the sentence hang there, heavy and bright and inescapable.
And that's where I'm going to leave you, right here with the gravy cooling and the lights warm and the box on the table like a bomb with my thumb on the button, because the moment before a truth lands is its own kind of story. And I want you to sit in it with me, feel the fork hovering, hear Luke breathing, watch Linda's smile die in slow motion. If you were me, would you push? Would you wait? Would you swallow your own tongue and call it peace? I didn't show up to Christmas to eat pie. I showed up to end a decade of bullshit with 3 letters and a line that says, "No more." Tom's fingers touched the envelope. "Merry Christmas," I said, sweet as sin, and smiled.
So tell me, if you were in my seat staring at a woman who built an empire of lies on your back, would you have dropped that DNA kit on the table too? Or would you have swallowed the truth just to keep the peace? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear what you'd have done.